What's up, guys? Today we're just doing a quick comparison of the Skar VXF and the Skar ZVX subwoofers to help you guys looking at these two woofers don't know which one to get, because they are very different. Even though the specs are very similar, the price is not too off from each other. They're very different sounding subs, and one might suit you better than the other, so it all just depends on what you're looking for, because they're both great subs. It's just they're different in a lot of ways, so we're going to go over that today. So this is the VXF 15 and this is the ZVX 15. As you can see, the ZVX is a little taller, but the VXF weighs in at over 50 pounds. The ZVX weighs about 48. I'll put those measurements up on the screen now. So the VXF actually is a couple pounds heavier, even though the ZVX is a little taller. Now both of these are really similar. The VXF has 30 millimeters of excursion one way. ZVX has 29. Both have 3-inch voice coils. The VXF has a 4-layer. The ZVX has an 8-layer. And that's going to attribute to some of the sound differences. The VXF has a lighter moving mass compared to the ZVX. So we're going to talk about all the differences, but specs wise they're pretty close. They both are 1500 RMS, 3000 peak, and I have ran both of these singly on a Smart 3 bass, and they do take it just fine. So they both handle power great. The VXF has a little bit less of a high roll surround, as you can see. Cone material looks the same. You have a larger dust cap on the ZVX. Let me go ahead and flip these things on the side and we'll take a look at the side view. Okay, so here's a side shot. You can see that the VXF magnet is larger diameter but smaller height. The ZVX has a smaller diameter but thicker magnet, and they use different top plates. Both of them great looking subs. Baskets on both are really good. A lot of companies use these same baskets. You'll notice the VXF has a lot more voice coil venting just because the design of the basket, but the ZVX still has really good voice coil venting as well. Terminals wise, both give you about the same size beefy terminals, so it's easy to connect a couple 10 gauge wires, no problem. One of the differences that I do want to note is the VXF has 2 spiders, so it's a dual layer. There's actually a spider on the top and a spider on the bottom, and a hold down ring and a separator, whereas the ZVX just has one spider. So, and these little things are kind of tying into the TS parameters with how they sound and the responsiveness. So let's go ahead and get to that now. I'll just flip over the back just so you can get the third view of these things real quick before we get into the sound characteristics. Okay, and here are them flipped upside down. And also, guys, I did full reviews on both of these if you want to check those out. Today we're just talking about the differences on how they sound and perform, so you guys can make a decision. So you guys can check those videos out on the VXF and the ZVXs, but let's go ahead and get down to it. So subs are all different. You know, some guys will love one sub, another guy won't like it. They're all different. So if anyone tells you that they're not different, they're crazy, because some subs are tight and harsh and slappy. Some are smooth and have no slap and kind of sloppy. It just goes all across the spectrum. Okay, so let's get down to how they sound and what they do better or worse than each other. First off, they're both really good sounding subs. It just depends on what you want. Everybody has different tastes. Somebody might love one sub and your buddy might not. It's a lot of subwoofers, man, is personal preference, because they're all different. They all have different sound characteristics. So that's the first thing. So you got to know what you want and kind of what you like. So that's why I always try to describe how things sound. So let's go ahead and go with the VXF. The VXF is one of my favorite overall subwoofers because it hits the lows very well. The transient response and accuracy is very good, and it's punchy but not overly aggressive. So it's punchy, hits the lows, musically accurate. It's a pretty tight woofer. It's not sloppy, so it sounds really good basically with all types of music. This sub, it can handle rap, bass music, country, rock, metal. It's a really good sub, which is why I love it. Anything you're listening to, it's going to sound great. It's got good excursion, so it moves a lot of air, really impactful. So really good sub for all types of music. Now, some guys don't listen to, metal and rock anymore. A lot of guys, especially in car audio, just listen to bass music, or hip hop or whatnot. It's a different kind of bass. So the ZVX, it doesn't have the accuracy as the VXF. The transient response isn't as good for the fast, bass, like in natural percussion, like metal and rock. But the ZVX watt per watt does get louder. And I think when I tested it, each of these on a Smart 3, the ZVX was almost 2 decibels louder. So that's quite a bit. So one of the things this does is it gets louder. And for a lot of guys, that's really important. It plays bass music really well. It hits the lows great. The only thing it lacks a little bit is accuracy on like rock and metal music. Sometimes with subwoofers that are made for SPL or just to get loud, the bass doesn't sound as like natural and how it was, meant to be reproduced. So this sounds really good for bass music, and it kills it. And rap and stuff. Once you get into metal and rock, sometimes the bass sounds a little bit hollow on natural percussion on metal and rock, but it's still not bad. I've had some subs where they just sound terrible on rock music and metal. So this still is decent if you listen to like rock once in a while. It's good for slower bass stuff like country. Anything with just a normal slow bass hit, it's really good. Or bass music where it's just sitting there flexing. The ZVX does great. So that's kind of basically the main difference. If you like sound quality and you have a good ear, some guys can't decipher between sound quality and non-sound quality. They just don't have a good ear. So if you just want something loud that bumps, and you don't listen to rock or metal or don't care about transient response necessarily as much, the ZVX is great because it is a little louder even on the same power. But if you care about sound quality, you have a good ear, you want something that has good transient response, the music being played and the bass comes out sounding really good as it was meant to be, then the VXF shines on that. So that's the main difference between these two subs. The specs are pretty close. Power handling is the same. So it's like, what do you want? SQL, these are loud, they sound good, they'll do metal, rap, whatever. Hammer the lows, but they're still tight and have nice slappy punch. Or do you want the ZVX that gets louder on the same amount of power, hits the lows very good, moves a lot of air, but just doesn't quite have that transient response and punchiness and accuracy. It's a smoother, more of an air pump type sub. So that's the big differences on these guys. I hope that helped you make a decision. I had a few guys asking me, and it's hard when you go buy a subwoofer and you don't know any better. A lot of guys haven't tested 80 subwoofers in a year like I have. People buy one and then they kind of hope it's good or they think it's good, but they don't know because they haven't heard anything else to compare it to. So that's what I try to do is help you guys make a decision so you can just, go buy something that's going to fit your needs and, what style bass you like. But you can't go wrong with either of them. They're both about $325, which for subs of this caliber, is a great price. It's still kind of in the mid-range budget price range. So, well, I hope that helped you guys out and answered any questions. Really nothing else I can think of. I think I covered it all. But both great subs, just depends on what you like. Alright guys, thanks for watching.